In 2015 and 2016, Messi mentioned multiple Wonderkids in football that he thought would achieve greatness in the sport. But looking back on it now, Lionel Messi might have missed the mark on some of his predictions. So who were Messi's predictions on the next greatest talents in football, and where are these players now? Well, let's take a look. Let's start this off with Kennedy, once hailed as one of Brazil's best upcoming players back in 2015. Back in the Brazilian league, Kennedy was lighting it up for Fluminense, and this eventually led to Chelsea signing him in the summer of 2015 for £6.3 million. In his debut 15-16 season, Kennedy would show glimpses of his talent to the Chelsea fans, with him scoring a goal and getting an assist in the Carabao Cup game against Walsall and a Premier League goal against Norwich away from home. However, 2 goals and 1 assist in 20 games wasn't good enough for the Chelsea hierarchy to justify keeping him in the squad for next season. So instead, Kennedy joined the illustrious Chelsea loan army and joined Watford in the beginning of the 16-17 campaign. Sadly for Kennedy though, he was struggling with injuries throughout his time at Watford and only made 1 appearance that season against Burnley. In fact, he was struggling with injury issues so much that he was sent back to Chelsea during the January transfer window, and he only made 1 more appearance in the season, and that was against Watford in the second last game of the season. That's kinda crazy, not gonna lie. Chelsea coaches made him play that game on purpose for real. Following that in the 17-18 campaign, it didn't start off hot for Kennedy, with him causing controversy during Chelsea's preseason tour of China, with Kennedy posting 2 videos on social media, with one captioned "Poro China," which translates to China, and the other video of a sleeping Chinese security guard with the caption "Wake up China, you idiot." Chinese Chelsea fans were not happy about this, and because of this, Kennedy was sent back to England early and was forced to apologize to the Chinese football fans, with Chelsea coming out and saying that Kennedy has been punished appropriately. With this, Kennedy didn't play a single game for Chelsea and was sent on loan to Newcastle in January 2018, where his only really impressive moment in the season was bagging a brace against Southampton. Overall, 3 goals and 5 assists in 19 games still wasn't enough for him to be a main team player for Chelsea, and with this controversies, he was sent back out on loan to Newcastle for the 18-19 season. However, Kennedy pretty much failed to impress anywhere he went. He didn't do well with his second stint at Newcastle, didn't do well with his loan move to Getafe, did okay with his moves to Granada and then Flamengo back in Brazil, and now skipping over to 2022, with him signing permanently for Real Valladolid, he's only got 2 goals and 1 assist in 37 games. Plus, Kennedy nowadays is more known for his outrageous tattoo rather than his footballing skills, so safe to say, Messi missed completely with this prediction. The next player Messi mentioned on his upcoming superstars list in 2015 is Alexei Miranchuk, the once exciting Russian talent. Now, if you were following football back then, you would know that the hype surrounding Miranchuk was pretty insane, and his technical ability and flair was making a ton of YouTube compilations. And to be fair, I can't even blame the fans or Messi for hyping him up, because he seemed like the real deal initially. Now, he made his debut for Lokomotiv Moscow at just 17 years old, and in the 7 years he was with the club, he managed to get a total of 43 goals and 45 assists in 227 games, becoming a cult hero for the club, especially in his last season, where he would be the star player for the club, bagging 16 goals and 5 assists in 32 games. While balling out for his club, Miranchuk would get some opportunities with the Russian national team as well. He would make the 2018 World Cup roster and made his one and only appearance against Uruguay in the last group stage game. And then he was called up again for the 2020 Euros, where he would make a few appearances, including one against Finland, and scored Russia's only goal in the 1-0 victory. Overall for Russia, he's only had 43 chances to play with the national team and has scored 6 goals. Not bad. Moving back a year though, in the summer of 2020, Miranchuk finally got signed to a team in one of Europe's top 5 leagues and signed for Atalanta in the Serie A for 15 million euros. He would have some pretty memorable moments, like scoring on his debut for the club in the Champions League, and overall in 77 games for Atalanta, where he still is today, he has a total of 12 goals and 14 assists in 77 games. Still pretty decent. He also had a loan stint in FC Torino, where he would get 4 goals and 6 assists in 31 games. Overall though, Miranchuk has had a pretty decent football career so far, and in the many misses Messi has in his predictions, trust me, saying Miranchuk would be one of the best wasn't a bad shout. Did he become one of the best though? Nah, but he's still a good player that's playing in the Serie A at 28 years old. Moving on to the next player that Messi named in 2015, we got Jeremy Boga. But real quick before we get on with that though, please remember to subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate it and it means a lot, so thank you. And also if you guys can, follow my Twitter and Instagram, both at Nabhuto, if you just want to hear my thoughts on football games, transfers, and overall just to get to know me more. So if you want to, feel free to hit me up with that follow. Thank you. Back to topic, Boga was also a Chelsea player, like Kennedy, who I mentioned earlier on this list. But this time, he actually joined Chelsea's academy in 2008 and went from there. However, despite being at the club for 7 years, the best Jeremy Boga got was being named on the bench for the final game of the season against Sunderland in the 2014-15 campaign. That's when for the following 15-16 campaign, Boga was sent on loan to Stade Rennais to get some first team experience, and he got plenty, with him playing 31 times and getting 3 goals and 1 assist. Sadly, Boga was already well on his way to becoming a part in Chelsea's huge loan army, and for the following 2016-17 campaign, Boga joined Granada on loan, and the season after, he joined Birmingham City, and he failed to impress at either of those clubs. But before he joined Birmingham, at the start of the 2017-18 campaign, Jeremy Jeremy Boga got the surprising start for Chelsea against Burnley in their first game, but he had to be substituted off in the 18th minute thanks to Gary Cahill getting sent off. Eventually, in July 2018, Boga had enough of being in Chelsea's loan army and signed permanently for Sassuolo for £3.5 million. But at Sassuolo is when Boga really came to life, and he quickly became one of the best dribblers and most exciting wingbacks in the Serie A. Eventually, after playing 102 games for Sassuolo, scoring 18 goals and getting 10 assists, Jeremy Boga made the move to another Serie A club that I also mentioned earlier in this video, Atalanta. After having a decent stint at Atalanta, Jeremy Boga signed for OGC Nice in the French league and has been a key player in the French side since. Additionally, he was called up to represent Ivory Coast at AFCON, where they were the hosts, and also where Ivory Coast miraculously won the entire competition after almost going out in the tournament entirely. So safe to say, even though Boga isn't one of the best players in the world, Messi didn't miss with his prediction completely, since Boga is still a pretty good player. The next player that Lionel Messi picked is the funniest one in my opinion, and that's suarez. The reason for that is because in the USMNT community, which I'm technically a part of since I'm a USA fan, suarez is a huge meme. I understand why Lionel Messi picked him though, because when Messi was making his 2015 list, Suarez recently was coming off an impressive season where his 16 goals in the MLS campaign helped LA Galaxy win the 2014 MLS Cup, and this earned him his first few international calls from the United States. But mostly since then, it hasn't been that good for Suarez. Overall for the LA Galaxy, Suarez had a decent track record, with him scoring 40 goals and getting 22 assists in 154 games for one of the biggest clubs in the MLS. But then in 2018, Suarez was traded to the Columbus Crew, with the LA Galaxy not wanting him to be a part of the team anymore. However, Suarez did well at his time at Columbus Crew, with one of his exceptional seasons happening in 2020, where he was named the MLS Comeback Player of the Year after scoring 19 goals, and this helped Columbus Crew win the MLS Cup in that same year. Overall for the Crew, Suarez got 61 goals and 9 assists in 122 games, before being traded to the Colorado Rapids in 2022. But after only one disappointing season, he joined Austin FC, where Suarez is still kind of struggling. So despite Suarez having a good MLS career, with him scoring over 100 goals in the league collectively, Suarez has been an MLS lifer his entire career. And despite having some memorable moments with the USMNT, like scoring a goal in the semifinals of the 2021 Gold Cup against Qatar to help USA reach the finals and win the Gold Cup, Suarez's career has been underwhelming compared to the other players on this list. And safe to say, Messi missed the mark completely with this prediction. From one MLS player to the other, let's go to the other American pick for Messi on the 2015 list, Kyrie Shelton. Now I can't blame Messi for picking him, or whoever actually made this list, because I kind of find it hard to believe that Messi was paying attention to the MLS draft when he was at his prime in Barcelona, no offense. But regardless, when Kyrie Shelton was initially drafted number 2 in the MLS draft for New York City FC, I thought Shelton was going to be one of the best upcoming USMNT stars. But oh boy was I wrong. Kyrie Shelton only played 3 seasons for New York City FC, where he would only get a total of 6 goals and 7 assists in 57 games. So it wasn't like he wasn't getting any opportunities, since he played over like 50 games. But when you have the likes of David Villa on your team instead, I can understand why the coaches would rather pick him over Shelton to play. Regardless, after his 3rd season, Kyrie Shelton was sold to Sporting Kansas City in 2017, where he would spend most of his career, with him playing 138 games for them, only scoring 15 goals and getting 15 assists. However, in 2019, Kyrie Shelton did make the bold decision to finally go abroad and play for SC Paderborn in Bundesliga 2 over in Germany. However, he only made 6 senior appearances for the club, and only scored his goals for the 2nd team of Paderborn before having to return to Sporting Kansas City. Overall, looking at the stats, Kyrie Shelton had a pretty disappointing career, with him not even scoring 20 MLS regular season goals in his 7 to 8 year MLS career. But I can commend him for having the balls to go abroad and play over there, unlike some other MLS players. Regardless of that though, this was a huge miss in Messi's prediction. Let's now move on to one of the most successful players on this list, Timo Werner. At a very early age, Timo Werner was hyped up and football fans thought he was destined for greatness, with him bagging a total of 45 goals in the U teams of Germany. Messi must have saw this and thought that Timo Werner was going to be the next big deal, and for a while he genuinely was. Werner grew up in the Stuttgart youth system, but eventually in 2016 he got a move to RB Leipzig for 23 million euros, and Werner started to cook, with him scoring 95 goals for RB Leipzig in 4 seasons, becoming the club's top scorer ever, and this led him to eventually get consistently called up to play for the prestigious Germany national team. With Timo Werner balling out in Germany and for Germany, Chelsea decided to pounce on the opportunity to sign him, and despite being heavily linked to Liverpool at the time, Chelsea got their man for £47.5 million. But then Timo Werner started to become a meme, and he was finding the Premier League extremely hard to adapt to, with him only managing to score 23 goals in the 89 games he took a part in. But Timo Werner did score that famous Champions League goal against Real Madrid in the semifinals, where this would then take Chelsea to win their 2nd ever Champions League. So was Werner really ever a flop for Chelsea? Messi? Probably, to be honest, but it would be unfair to say that Timo Werner didn't have great moments. After this though, in the summer of 2022, Werner returned to RB Leipzig where he would bag 16 goals in the season, and halfway through the 23-24 campaign, Tottenham signed Timo Werner on half a season loan, and only time will tell how good Werner would be for the other London club, but so far it doesn't look too good for him.
Big man thing, yeah? It's not looking good, bruv.
Overall though, out of all the predictions Messi has made, I can safely tell you that Werner is definitely one of his best ones. Moving on to another decent prediction from Messi, we got the Ivorian fullback / attacker Maxwell Cornet. Right before Messi picked him on the list, Cornet was one of the most exciting French players, with him balling out for the national team's youth system and also for his boyhood club, Metz, where he would refuse to sign a new contract with the club and instead join Lyon in January 2015. Cornet's time at Lyon was an absolute success, with him making over 250 appearances for the club and played a key role in helping Lyon reach the Champions League semi-finals in 2020, where he also scored the opening goal against Manchester City in the quarterfinals to knock them out of the competition. However, after 5.5 years with the French Giants, Cornet made the rather surprising decision to take his talents to Burnley for £12.9 million. Now this was a strange decision, from playing in the Champions League with Lyon to then playing for Sean Dyche's Burnley. But hey, the bag must have been fire. Regardless, Burnley had a difficult 21-22 campaign and got relegated, but Cornet was one of their standout players in the Premier League, with him scoring 9 Premier League goals and becoming Burnley's top scorer in the season. But Cornet was definitely not going to stay with Burnley in the championship, so instead he signed for West Ham for €20.7 million. And he's still with them today. Admittedly, with West Ham, he hasn't become a standout player like he once was with Burnley, but regardless, Cornet's time at West Ham is okay, with him winning the Conference League with them, even though he's mainly a bench warmer and has only scored 1 goal as someone who prides himself as an attacking fullback. Also, he switched allegiances to the Ivory Coast, and he didn't get called up for AFCON, where Ivory Coast won the entire tournament. So although Cornet's time in his career recently hasn't been so great, his career so far has been pretty decent, so Messi didn't miss entirely with his prediction, not gonna lie. The next footballer on this list is someone I'm sure you guys have heard of. It's Ronnie Lopez. Now when Messi made his 2015 predictions, Lopez was a standout player for the U-teams of Portugal, scoring tons of goals, and he was even recently promoted to the first team squad of Manchester City, who is, as we all know, one of the best teams in the world. So Messi had some reason to name him as a top talent. Sadly for Ronnie Lopez and Messi though, his time at Manchester City would come to a very quick end, and he was sold to AS Monaco in August 2015 for £9 million. However, only a few months in with his time at Monaco, he was loaned out to Lille, who he was once with in his career. However, Ronnie Lopez would perform great at his 18-month loan spell at Lille, and that's when he got recalled by Monaco and balled out for them in the 17-18 campaign, with him scoring 17 goals and getting 12 assists in 50 games for them in the season. Ronnie Lopez did drop off a bit in the next campaign though, and so did Monaco as a whole, to be honest, with them almost getting relegated. But Sevilla were still blown away by his talent that they signed him in 2019 for €25 million, with Ben Yedder going the opposite way and signing for Monaco. And I think it's well known now that Monaco got the better end of the deal here, because Lopez did not perform great for Sevilla, and he was stuck in their loan army, with him having stints for OGC Nice, Olympiacos, and then Troy on loan. Eventually, Ronnie Lopez's contract ran out with Sevilla, and in August 2023, he signed for SC Braga in the Portuguese league for free, where he still is today. I can't blame Messi for picking Ronnie Lopez though, because at the start of his career, I remember hearing that he was going to be one of the next best players in the world, and at that one season with Monaco, it truly felt like that could be the case. But sadly, Ronnie Lopez could not live up to that high and unfair potential, and Messi missed slightly with his prediction. Moving on to the next Messi pick, we got a player that I've generally never heard of until now. It's Acursio Bentavegna, and I'm fairly confident that you guys have not heard of this player either, because this prediction was one of the biggest misses from Messi. When Messi initially picked Bentavegna on this list, he was a young forward at Palermo doing well for the under-19s, scoring 32 times in 72 games. But Bentavegna never really broke through with the senior team at Palermo, with him only making 8 appearances for the senior team, and after numerous loan deals to the likes of Como, Ascoli, and Calares, Bentavegna decided to stay at Calares permanently for a couple of years, until he joined Juve Stabia in Serie C for free, where he's now scored the most goals for a club that he's played for in his career. He then had stints at Imoles and now Novara, but overall, this was an absolute stinky pick from Messi. Not gonna lie, I haven't even heard of half the clubs I just mentioned to you guys. Honestly bro, just wow, this was a huge miss. But the next player on this list might be as equally underwhelming, and it's James Wilson. And no, I ain't talking about one of the founding fathers of the United States. I'm talking about one of the academy products of Manchester United, once one of the most highly regarded players coming through the academy, and he had a wonderful dream debut in May 2014, where he scored a brace against Hull City. And not gonna lie, it truly felt like James Wilson was next up not only for Manchester United, but also for England. However, his career had a massive drop off when it comes to his expectations, because the next season he barely got on the pitch much for Manchester United, and then was loaned out to Brighton in the Championship, where he also didn't impress much, and then following that, Wilson was loaned out to Derby County, where he suffered a nasty knee injury, which kept him out out for around a year. When he returned, Wilson was loaned out to Sheffield United, but even then, he barely played for the English club. And honestly, he was never the same when he came back from injury. His career proceeded to drop off massively, with him having moves to Aberdeen in the Scottish League, to then Salford City in League 2, where to be fair, he performed decent, getting 10 goals for the club, and now with Port Vale, where he's made almost 100 appearances at the time of me recording this, and now has 21 goals and 5 assists. So although James Wilson is now playing at League 1, and this seems like his level, it's a shame what happened to his career, especially because of that nasty injury. And due to that, it's kind of hard to judge Messi's prediction, since James Wilson's drop off is kind of unexpected, but the game's the game, I guess. Now we're finally moving on to Messi's 2016 picks, where I'm not gonna lie, Messi had more misses than hits with his prediction once again. But let's start off with one of the decent players, JeanKevin Austine. To be fair to Messi, when he made this prediction, Austine was balling out for the French youth national teams, and recently got promoted from the PSG academy to the senior team. He seemed to be one of France's next biggest stars. However, Austine realized that he couldn't be one of the main stars at PSG, so he decided to take his talents to RB Leipzig over in Germany for 13 million euros. In the 17-18 campaign, Austine only managed to get 12 goals and 6 assists in 37 games across all competitions, despite competing against Timo Werner and Yusuf Poulsen for a spot in the starting 11. Eventually, Austine had some disciplinary issues, like using his phone during a pre-match build-up in a Europa League game. But regardless, Austine played a part in RB Leipzig, finishing 3rd in the 18-19 campaign, thanks to his 8 goals. However, despite being linked to Everton for around £37 million, Austine took his talents to Monaco on a season-long loan deal with an optional buyout clause. Sadly for Austine though, his time at Monaco was short-lived, because with him only scoring 1 goal and getting 1 assist, Monaco had no problem cutting the deal short, and that's when Austine was sent off to Leeds United in the championship, where I remember Leeds United fans celebrating hard, because they thought they just signed themselves a potential superstar to play for them in the championship. Sadly for Leeds fans though, Austine only made 3 appearances for the English club, and only 48 minutes total for the club due to suffering a muscular injury, and apparently not putting in the work that Bielsa required for a player at the club. After contract disputes between Leipzig and Leeds, where Leeds had to pay Leipzig more than 20 million euros, despite Austine not playing for the club again, Austine ended up joining FC Nantes in the French league on a free transfer. But his time at Nantes didn't go well either, with him only playing 11 games for the main team, and was later demoted to the B team at Nantes for a bit too. Then in June 2022, Austine joined FC Basel over in the Swiss league on a free transfer, where to this point he's only scored 8 goals and got 1 assist in 47 games. So safe to say, Augustine's career didn't go in the way that all of us thought. But when Messi made this prediction, Austine was seen as a future French star, so I can't blame Messi for picking him on this list. Next up on this list, we got Patrick Roberts, who Messi said is one to watch while he was with Manchester City. However, Roberts only made 1 single appearance for Man City in the 2015-16 season, and instead, he was loaned out to Celtic for 2.5 years. After that, he was part of Man City's loan army, and had a series of loan spells at clubs like Girona, Norwich City, Derby County, Middlesbrough, and then Troy. But then in January 2022, Patrick Roberts permanently joined Sunderland after an initial 6-month loan, since he played a part in helping Sunderland gain promotion from League 1 in the previous season. And now, Patrick Roberts to this day is a consistent player for Sunderland. But that's really just it. His career is just mid-table English football. Nothing more to it. But Messi definitely missed with this prediction. The next prediction from Messi though is a player I don't think was a bad choice. It's Kasper Dolberg, probably one of the most successful players on this 2016 list. When Messi made this prediction, Dolberg was initially playing for Ajax, where he got a total of 45 goals and 16 assists in 119 games. This eventually earned Dolberg a move to the French side OGC Nice for 20.5 million euros. And in Dolberg's first season, he ended up as the club's top scorer with 11 goals, and was also named the club's best player of the season after helping Nice finish 5th place in the league and securing a Europa League spot for the following campaign. Eventually, after scoring a total of 24 goals in 85 games for Nice, he got a loan move to Sevilla, where his stint with them was extremely underwhelming, as he only played 8 games, got 0 goals and 1 assist. Eventually for the following campaign, Dolberg got a move to Hoffenheim, but it was underwhelming once again, as he only got 2 goals in 14 games. However, with Dolberg showing great glimpses, and also playing a huge role for Denmark, scoring 11 goals in 43 games for his country, with 3 of them being at the 2020 Euros, and him even playing at the 2018 World Cup, Dolberg earned himself a move to Anderlecht on a 4-year contract, where he's now one of their main players, as he's got 12 goals and 3 assists in 28 games for the Belgian club. Overall, at just 26 years of age, Dolberg has enjoyed a pretty good career, and although he never lived up to the world-class level Messi predicted, I wouldn't really say that Messi's prediction was a miss, because Dolberg still had a pretty good career. The next player who wasn't a miss is probably the best player on this list, and probably the most successful, is David Calabria. The Italian defender has been with AC Milan his entire life, and ever since he got promoted to the senior squad in 2015, the right back has made around 250 appearances for the club, and has now even become their captain at just 27 years old. I also don't think that Calabria is ever going to leave AC Milan until like the end of his career, but safe to say, he's well on his way to becoming an AC Milan legend, and he's also a player that Messi did not miss with his prediction. Although he definitely does need some more caps for Italy. He's barely played for them, not gonna lie. Let's now move on to a stinker pick from Lionel Messi, and we got Kekuta Mane. And no, I'm not talking about Sadio Mane, this is a different Mane, Kekuta Mane. Messi initially believed that the Gambian winger could make it to the top, but overall he failed to live up to those expectations. When Messi said that, Mane was playing for the Vancouver Whitecaps, and honestly, he played for them for a majority of his career. He eventually signed for the Columbus Crew in 2017, but less than a year later, he signed with Pachuca over in Mexico, and 6 months after that, he signed for FC St. Gallen over in Switzerland. But after only 9 games where he only managed a singular assist, Mane moved back to America and signed for FC Cincinnati, where he got 5 goals and 3 assists in 32 games, before moving to New England Revolution, and then Austin FC, where he only played 16 games for the Texan club and got 0 goal contributions. Eventually, Mane had to jump down to the USL, and then played for the likes of San Antonio FC, and after that, he became a free agent for a year, before joining Canadian club Pacific FC. But as of January 2024, Mane is still a free agent, and he's signed to no club right now at just 29 years old. Messi did have one hell of a stinker with this prediction. Moving on to another stinker, we got Alex Moyle, another player who's playing in the MLS. Messi apparently thought that Alex was going to make it big, since he was initially labeled as the next American Wonderkid when the winger was with the New York Red Bulls. But in 2020, Alex Moyle got traded to Nashville SC, and he's been there ever since. He's still yet to play for the United States men's national team, and honestly, he never will. He's just an average MLS player in my eyes. Messi with another prediction miss. The next prediction from Messi is Nathan Ale de Souza, who's also a miss. But I can understand where Messi's coming from with this one, since he was hailed as a wonder kid when he initially signed for Chelsea. But just like the other Chelsea players on this list, Nathan was one of those players that was part of Chelsea's huge loan army. And after playing with Dutch side Vitesse, French side Amiens, and Portugal's Belenenses, the Brazilian went back home to his country and signed for Atletico Mineiro for £2.5 million. And after a stint with Fluminense, Nathan now plays for Brazilian giants Grêmio. Another miss from Messi, but I can kind of understand his reasoning. The next prediction for Messi is also a pretty understandable one. It's Gabriel Barbosa. When Messi named Gabriel to his 2016 list, the Brazilian footballer just signed for Monaco on a 5-year deal. However, despite Barbosa making 35 appearances for Monaco, scoring 8 goals and getting 3 assists, he was loaned out a couple times, like to Belgium's Standard Liège and Ligue 1's FC Nantes, before transferring himself permanently to Internacional back home in Brazil. While in Brazil, after a couple of seasons, Barbosa moved to Coritiba, and now most recently on January 31st, 2024, Gabriel Barbosa is back in Europe, playing for Eto FC Győr in the Hungarian league. So although Gabriel lived nowhere near his expectations, I can also understand why Messi picked this man on this list. Now there are 2 more players that Messi has mentioned, but I'm not gonna lie, I'm starting to think that Messi didn't make this list at all. I bet he just said some names that he was told to say, because the next 2 names on this list is a women's footballer named Nadezhda Karpova, who is a footballer playing for Russia, and Charnadeep Sanggrasin, a player who mainly played in the Thai league and also in Japan as well. But I've never heard of these people, so what makes you think that Messi genuinely has as well? That's all I'm saying. Overall though, man does Messi suck at predicting career trajectories. Bro missed on almost every single one. Messi, stick to the pitch since you're the GOAT of doing that, and let me handle the predictions, the GOAT of doing that. Anyways, if you guys enjoyed this video, please remember to subscribe to the channel and also like the video. I would really appreciate it. And please be sure to follow my Twitter and my Instagram. The links are in my YouTube description. And last but not least, if you want to learn more about the beautiful underdog stories that happened at this year's Asian Cup, you definitely want to check out this video right here. You won't regret it.